Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurial Athlete. You all, I have been graced with a special guest here. Before I introduce George to you all, I am the host of this show, Entrepreneurial Athlete. And if you don't know who I am, y'all, I am a business coach, specifically helping small businesses streamline their business and help them automate their workflows. So I'm excited to get into the conversation that today with George. We do have, George, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you. And I'm excited to share your story with the people today. And so George, I always start out and ask my guests, what what is like the transferable skill that you had and learned as a successful hockey player to now shifting over to, pun intended, shifting over to shift group working there? Like, what is that transferable skill?
Thanks, Phylesha. Really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And that's a great question. There's so many things that come to mind, right, as being an athlete that we can transfer into the business world. Competitiveness comes to mind, right? Just that desire to win and to be the best and to be great, to play college basketball, to play college hockey or in the pros. You just need to have that drive to win, and business is no different. That doesn't go away. We want to win the game. I think grit and resiliency come to mind, right? Just the ability to be resilient, deal with failure, learn from that failure, and come back, right? How many games have we lost as athletes? How many times did we get cut and then make the team the next year, right? So that ability to bounce back, learn from it, and come back even stronger, right? Because you're going to lose in the athletic world, and you're gonna lose in business, right? And what are you going to learn from that, and how are you going to apply it to the next try, right? So um, there's that ability to bounce back from failure. Think also think about how much we learn from our coaches, right? Coachability, the ability to take feedback, implement coaching, and get better. The best in sports, think about how many times did they get in the gym and work on their free throws until they just couldn't miss, right? So, you know, and taking that, implement that coaching that we get from our coaches, having that growth mindset just to improve and constantly get better, and actually not let your ego get in the way, right? Putting that ego down and say, I'm going to put my pride down. And I'm going to take your coaching because I want to be better. And then lastly, I just say being a great teammate. So many, obviously, businesses, it's not just one person typically, it can be multiple people. So, what we learn from this team sport like basketball or hockey is you have to be a team player. What does the team need, and how can you play your role to help your team win? So those are probably the four or five that really come to mind for me.
And all of those are crucial, but I will say that one thing that stood out to me was like the ability to bounce back. And I don't know if you had one of these moments, but it brought back a memory where I was playing college ball, and I believe that we were up by a point, and I was guarding the point guard. And I just remember where she did some type of move, kind of got past me, shot the ball, obviously scored. And when I tell you it was probably like 3 seconds left on the clock, we didn't score and we lost. And that devastated me. I've never had that moment, before. I mean, I've been playing for a long time. And so I wanted to ask you, like, playing hockey, like, was there any type of moment like that where it just, maybe it might have been a last minute play or something like that where you had to bounce back from?
Hey, just real quick, I know you're watching the episode, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit. I got to put you on game to something that is going to be huge for former athletes stepping into entrepreneurship. If you're a former athlete, you're looking to build or scale your business, you need to be in my school community. And I promise you, it's not going to be just some regular online group, but it's literally a network of all of us, former athletes who get what it's like transitioning from sports into business. And what that group is going to be called, Entrepreneurial Athlete. And I promise we know, right? We know what it's like in sports, right? You have teammates and you can level up together. And that's exactly what this community is going to be about. And so inside, you'll find some great stuff, networking opportunities with other athletes. You get expert insights, not only from myself, but from the great podcast guests that you are watching. You also get collaboration opportunities. It could be for building your brand or even getting some type of referrals or anything like that to grow your business. And then also exclusive events and trainings, not just virtual, but also in person as well. So check me out, check out the link of the community. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be down in the description below.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it started actually when I was very young. I was about 11 years old and I know very young, but still a top player. I broke my leg in an accident outside of hockey. And so shattered femur, was in a body cast for a year. So I basically had to learn to walk again and learn to skate again. So that was, early days of being like, wow, you just went through a pretty serious injury to bounce back from that was a lot. And then the long road to reaching kind of the top levels where I didn't make the top teams when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. I played lower level youth hockey. So I always kind of had a chip on my shoulder to be like, I'm not playing the top level, but I'll get back there one day. And it was a long journey in terms of I wasn't the best player on my team as a sophomore, as a junior. I struggled in junior hockey, but by the time I got to the college level, my freshman year, I was ready to perform at a high level. And then I ended my college career as an All-American. I led the country in scoring. I had 100 points as a defenseman. So very proud of the journey. And it's playing the long game, right? It's not about being the best 14-year-old. It's about being the best, 20, 25-year-old, 30-year-old, and beyond that.
Well, I wish I would have known that earlier. Right? I know that now, but I did not know that back then. And I don't know too. I mean, I've watched hockey before, but I don't know too much about it. So like for basketball, right? We have AAU, where like in the summertime, it's travel ball, it's very competitive. But for college, I mean, for hockey, do you all have like AAU? Like when is hockey played? This is so a bad like I should know this, but
It's really changed over the years. You could probably say 30 years ago was really that 30, 40 years ago it was just a winter sport, but now it's really played year round. So you can play all the way from September to May and even all summer if you want to play. So, but yeah, there's different levels. There's AAA hockey is very intense and demanding. There's a lot of games and it produces a lot of great players, but it's also not for everyone. You can still play town hockey and become a great player one day. So it's really about finding the best level for you and where you think you really will develop the most.
And so you said that you weren't always one of the best on the team when you were young. So what drew you to the sport, right? Was it like just a natural talent, or you just kind of had to figure? Well, you said you had to figure your way out, but like, did you know that hockey was just your thing right away?
Yeah, my dad was a great player back in the day. So he played in college. He played professionally. My uncle was a great player who played in the NHL, and he was on the Olympic team. So I kind of knew right away it was always going to be hockey. And then I fell in love with the game right away at a very young age, probably 4 or 5 years old, with just the feeling of being on the ice is something that, there's nothing like the feeling of skating around. You feel like you're just flying. So the fast pace, quick decisions you have to make, and just fell in love with everything about the game.
Yeah, I love that because I myself was a natural, right? I tell this story a lot, but I started playing basketball when I was 4. But my mother tried to put me in just something girly like ballet, dancing. And I just was such a tomboy. I did not like it at all. And from there, it was just always sports. Like I don't know, like just sports was my thing. But basketball was just my sport. I naturally gravitated to it, and I like to hear other stories like yours. And so when you're playing hockey, like take us back to the mindset that you had to have because you had, like you said, you had to have that chip on your shoulder. And so seeing like your uncle and your father, right, they already had the success. Did you kind of compare yourself a little bit to them? How was that for you?
Yeah, they definitely set the standard for me. When I started to realize that they played at that high level, it's something that I also wanted to achieve. So they really did set the standard, and yeah, it's something that I also really wanted to achieve. I definitely had that chip on my shoulder, but looking back, there's some things now that I really learned from hockey that I take with myself every day. I wish I was a little more disciplined, right? Wish I was more focused when I was playing hockey on the sport, right? I think the best professionals in the world at their sport, they're dedicated, right? Even when it comes down to what you eat, your sleep, right? What are you doing on the weekends? They're obsessed with getting better. And I think it's very hard when you're 16, 17 years old to really think like that, right? And prioritize it. But like you think about, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, or Sidney Crosby or Wayne Gretzky, they're obsessed at that 14, 15, even earlier on achieving that dream. And I think I got away from that a little bit. And as a professional now, I really implement uh, true discipline in my day to day to be the best I can be in my current role.
And it's funny that you say that. That is true. I think it does take sometimes some maturity. You kind of have to go sometimes, and I'm speaking for myself. Like I had to go through some hard things in order to realize that I actually have to do the work, right? I can't rely on the natural ability anymore, right? We're all good, right? College, pro, you went pro or you went pro, everybody's good. Like you have to put in the work. And so when did that shift happen for you? Like did it happen as early as high school, maybe in the early later years in high school? But when did that happen for you?
I think that realization happened to me when I got to the pros. I had a very great college career individually, and then I got to the American Hockey League, and I was entitled, and I thought, hey, I did really well at the last level, so this is going to be easy. But then when you're playing against guys that are bigger than you, stronger than you, and faster than you, that was a wake up call for me. So I really realized that I was not ready to make that jump to the highest level, which was a hard lesson to learn, especially when you had success before, but success in the league before doesn't always mean you're going to guarantee success at the next level. So that was a big wake up call for me.
Yeah, I know like personally, when I was in college, I my biggest wake up call was when I did not really play as much as I would have liked, right? At Syracuse, and with some coaching differences or some differences I had, and everything is good now, but at the time I just couldn't understand, right? And so, but I will say that I fell in such a victim mindset where it was everybody else's fault, right? Mind you, I was not eating right. I wasn't doing any extra workouts or anything, right? But I fell into like I know I deserve it, like kind of like entitled a little bit. And I feel like I didn't realize that until, well, let me back up. I will say that having good people around you that kind of help you snap out of whatever type of mental negativity is going on is very crucial. Because when you're in that negative like mindset and you're just like it's everybody's fault, you attract that, right? Like I started attracting that type of mindset from other people, and then we're angry at the world now. But I will say, having good people, like that person was my mother for me to snap me out of that and tell me, listen, like you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You can't blame other people, right? And so for you, George, when you were kind of just going as you're a pro and you're going through those realizations where it's like you actually have to, okay, I got to do something, like I have to put in some real work here. Not saying that you didn't before, but like I have to step my game up. Did you have like a community or just some type of people around you to kind of just support you and help you get through that?
Absolutely, yeah. I had always had a great support system with my family and my mentors and coaches. But to your point, I never really got out of that victim mindset in time before it was too late and hockey ended, right? So that made the transition even harder for me. It made the lesson even harder because I did have a little bit of that that victim mindset. I feel like I should be given more ice time. I should be given to play at the next level. But the reality is, if you're good enough, they'll play you, right? So you got to be so good. It's just undeniable. But again, I take that lesson today. Every day I wake up for my work now, I realize, your spot is not, something that's, guaranteed. You got to earn it every single day, right? So that's a big mindset shift I had to have from athletics into my new profession.
Yeah, and explain that a little bit more. Like, as did you go from college ball to straight pro, and then you started working, or how did that transition look? What did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So after college, I played 10 years in the American Hockey League, and like I said, it was a great experience, but I wasn't able to stay at that level. Then I did 1 year in the ECHL, which is two levels before the NHL, which we had a great year. It was a great team. We made the conference finals, so one of my greatest memories in hockey. But after that year, I just fell out of love with hockey a little bit. I wasn't in a great mindset, and I did have some head injuries, so I just decided to step away from the game. But it was a defining moment in my life because I struggled so much with the transition out of hockey. As you know, as a basketball player, that's your life, that's your identity. You pour everything into that, and then one day it's just over. So I didn't know how to handle the transition, the loss of structure, the loss of my teammates, the loss of the competition. So I was in a very difficult place. So that was part one of the transition, and part two of the transition. What should I go do? Like, what should my career be in? I don't even know where to start. What could I be good at? How do my traits, translate into the business world? I don't know. So I ended up going into sports media, which was, if I, I'm glad I did it because again, it was a learning lesson, but I don't think it fully aligned to my characteristics and what I wanted out of a career. So I worked at NBC Sports for 6 years, and it was a learning experience.
Yeah. Well, and that is very true. I think a lot of us we struggle with trying to find a new identity or even our new purpose, right? Our sport was our purpose for so long, you lose it, and then it's just like, what do I do? Who am I? And for a minute there, I don't know if you had this thought, but I was like, wow, like what am I good at? Like I felt like I was only good at basketball. And it took me some time, like, to realize, like, you have more than that. Like, if I wanted to stay in basketball, that is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, I really was desperate to find out what else was I good at. Like, outside of basketball, like I felt like I got that sport. Like I got it, I understand it, okay, at least. But like, what can I do outside of that? And I just like threw myself into working. I didn't know what I wanted to do, like you. But I was like, well, I'm just gonna figure it out. I don't know. And I literally was just trying everything at work. Like I was just like, well, even though it wasn't the best working environment, I mean, I have stories for days, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And so now, right, like you're working at Shift Group, right? And tell us about Shift Group, because I love the mission that you all are doing there. So what do you do at Shift Group?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So at Shift Group, we help former college and pro athletes and as well as military veterans transition out of their sport or out of the military into their next career. So we've been doing it for 3.5 years. We probably helped over 1,000 people make the transition. And I think the great part about the platform at Shift Group and what we do is we offer free online curriculum and training where you can go through our platform and do a little self-discovery with yourself, kind of figure out what your values are and what you want out of a career. We offer really great job skill training, so we can give people the basic skills. Let's say it's sales you want to go into. We'll give you 15 hours of basic training on how to be great in sales. And then people also build a kind of like a souped up LinkedIn profile with some videos on there that you can share with our hiring partners, and we'll help people get through our training and interview with our companies and help them land roles. We've done really well in sales, specifically technology sales. We've had a lot of success in, and you were kind of talking about earlier, what are those characteristics and traits and lessons that I've learned from sports that could translate into the business world? Well, sales lines up to a lot of those because it's a performance-based role. There's a scoreboard every day. You're working with your team. You have to be competitive. You have to be resilient. You have to be coachable. And every day the scoreboard's live, and you have to perform, and you're rewarded for your performance. I think that's the great thing about it too. In these performance-based roles like sales, the better you do, the more money you're going to make. Right? There's growth. There's a huge growth opportunity. So that's why I'm so big on these performance-based roles for athletes.
Yeah. When I was looking for my first job, I did hear a lot of that where athletes are very great in sales, like, so I do think that is very true. I started in sales, so that's 100% true. And I actually enjoyed that job too. Just I got laid off and, unfortunate things happened with the company, but with you, like with Shift Group, right? And you all have an amazing mission. Um, was it important for you to find something and find something that was more tailored to your same mission in life? Like, is that the reason why, it just works for you at Shift Group better than maybe other places?
That's a great question. That was a huge part of my decision to work at Shift Group because I could resonate so much with the transition out of sport. When I was going through it, I lived it. And what drives me every day is I try to be that coach and person for people that I needed in that moment, right? We've had coaches our whole life in sports, but when it ends, like there's not a ton of support there. So I feel like I could really support people going through the transition. And then I was so passionate about having someone pick the right career path because I feel like going into media for me wasn't the right path. No matter how hard I worked, my paycheck was going to stay the same. So I really was passionate about people picking the right career path and helping them guide them there. So yeah, it was a huge part of the reason why I wanted to work at Shift Group, and it drives me every day.
Yeah, I think it's very important for like athletes, just my personal opinion. Oh, drop my earring. Just my personal opinion that us athletes need like some type of guidance, right? Like after college, to just kind of help us navigate the world of just working, right? Because I never had the experience of working in internship is what I'm trying to say. An internship, I didn't have that, right? And so for me, graduating and not knowing nothing about, like, I've never worked a job like at all. Like I never had to until I graduated. And so I'm like, what is this, right? Like what is this? I gotta find a job. I gotta submit a resume. Like what? Okay, I did that a little bit in college, but I didn't have too much experience. But I will say that having something like you all are doing at Shift Group, if I would have had that, that would have been huge and probably saved me a couple of different, like probably avenues, right? I could have steered straight in versus going right and left. But like I love that. I really do. Because I will say I started out in sales. I thought I didn't like it. Well, I didn't like it at the time and just thought it wasn't for me. But it's funny how it all works out. But I'm back. Now I'm doing business and that's sales, right? Let's be real. Business is sales. And now I'm loving it. Like I'm all business. Like it's so funny how life works sometimes, but it's always a full circle moment. But getting back to like your story, George, right? Like, and I want to make sure that the audience really hear and listen to your points, right? And so as we're kind of wrapping up here, I want the people to know like do you have any last minute tips for the person that might be just struggling with just their identity or after college just trying to figure it out, like what are some tips that you can give them as they are navigating this new life?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I think it's what we talked about earlier, where a lot of people, when the game ends, they think, I don't have any experience, right? I don't know what I'm going to be good at. And you have to frame it in your mind of, yes, you actually do have 20 years of experience of competing at the highest level, being a great teammate, right? Winning, losing, being coachable, like I talked about earlier. So it's more so getting in the mindset of taking all the things that you've learned from the game and how they're gonna translate to your next career. And the other thing I would say that I thought of when you were speaking earlier, and I think I fell into this trap, when the game ends, I got to be passionate about what I'm going to do when I pick my next career, right? I would really think about what that word means to you in terms of passionate and what your goals are, because you could be passionate like I was about sports media or the game. And what does that mean for you financially though in your work and your life and your family, right? So be very careful when you're thinking about what you're passionate about. I would say more so what are your values and goals? Like in sales, I get it. It might be hard to get excited about cybersecurity or your cloud data backup, but if that can create financial freedom for you and you can see growth and results, well, I bet you could find a way to get passionate about cybersecurity, right? So that's something to really think about when you're making that transition and thinking about your career choice.
100%. I actually have a saying where basically you don't have to be necessarily, you don't have to enjoy everything about what you do, right? Definitely, any business, any job that you do, you want to make sure that you can afford the lifestyle that you can, do, right? You don't want to struggle, right? So definitely pick a career path that aligns there first, and then use that to fuel whatever you want to do that you're passionate in. So no, that's
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a
I
hundred.
had I had someone recently tell me, when you're thinking about your next job, you want to be able to earn, you want to be able to learn, and you want to be able to have fun. So if you can check those three boxes, you're probably going to really like the job.
I never heard that before. That's 100. Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, earn, learn, and have fun. And to your point, if you want to maybe run a business one day, guess what? You got to know how to do sales, because there's no business without sales.
Not at all. It's a whole yeah. That is true. You got to learn how to market yourself. It's a lot. Yep, a lot, but it's definitely rewarding. But George, I enjoyed this conversation with you and getting to know you more. So if anybody listening wanted to know more about Shift Group, how can they find you or Shift Group? What's the website or anything?
Appreciate you asking that. It is shiftgroup .io is the website. So www.shiftgroup.io is our website, where you can find us on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram as well. So I think the best part about it, it's completely free for the athletes we work with. So at the worst case, you're going to go in and learn some great things, and at the best case, we'll find you you're a role that you'll love and a career that you'll love. So really appreciate you having me on, and the support and the conversation was great. So thank you.
Absolutely. And so I will make sure that you have that, listeners, you have that information down in the description so you can navigate the website, get more and more information, check them out on Shift Group, and they're doing some great things over there. And if you are a former athlete yourself, turn business owner, if you're just doing great things at your business or your work and all the things, I would love to hear your story and have the opportunity to share your story. Comment down below in the description, guest, and I will get connected with you. But we will check you all in the next episode. Have a good one.